Welcome to Alignment in Spirit Incorporated's first self-empowerment webinar, Being in Alignment. Be the God Source First Eternal Being that you be. My name is Katie Brackeen. This webinar has been created from my personal experience of waking up to who I am. I am still evolving and growing, and AIS will continue to evolve with me. I give thanks to George Trapp for the inspiration and technical support given, for without him this webinar would not have been done. I also wanted to give thanks to my personal clan, Alhambra and crew, who every day are showing me more and more they and me are one. This is an introductory webinar for people of all walks of life, not just KS. While for some there is a lot of repetition, the message is still new. I request that everyone remember to be mindful of their breathing and the thoughts that come to mind. Breathe into them and let them be. No judgments one way or the other. There will be a question and answer time at the end, and there will be times I ask questions. Please text your answers and/or questions to us for the benefit of the group as a whole to receive. And with that, we will begin. This webinar will answer what it means to be a God Source First Eternal Being, which will be looking at first creation mechanics, why we are not expressing as who we truly are, which will look at second creation mechanics construct, which includes Fibonacci spiral and finite structures, what we can do to realign the barriers to being it. We will look at 2 approaches to being in alignment in spirit. We will come to understand why we seem to wholeheartedly believe we are finite when we are not, and how this reality continues being perpetrated. This webinar will also continue answering. This workshop is not about fixing you or making you happy or solving your problems. This workshop is to empower you to come to know you. This workshop is about you seeing yourself honestly for who you really are and choosing how you want to be. Being in alignment does not mean conforming to any religion or organization's rules on how to live a happy, successful life or how to make it to heaven. It means being empowered to be who we are as spiritual beings living in a bio-spiritual universe. Being in alignment in spirit takes us back to our playful innocence of knowing without fear or guilt. It takes us back to that inner child that we lost contact with somewhere in the process of growing up. AIS is a key to our vast map of being that we can use to take us wherever we want to align with. We are vast, whole, and everywhere. Wherever you are, there you are. The focus of AIS is to support you to expand into your full expression of being, whatever that may be for you. The only stipulation AIS does hold firmly to is to support you expressing fully in first creation mechanics and to understand how second creation mechanics affects us in so many subtle ways. Questions to ask ourselves: who am I really in relation to myself, the universe, and God, oneness, God Source? What is God Source First Eternal Being? Take a moment to sit with it. Some of you are very aware and others have not thought on this much. Some have intellectually thought about it but never really experienced what this question means. What would those questions have to do with you living a fully happy, prosperous, and joyful life? In other words, do these questions really relate to our daily life and not just some being esoteric spiritual woo-woo? And the answer is everything. Who are we really in relation to ourselves and the universe? God, oneness, God and source. What is God's source? First eternal. What would that have to do with you living a full, happy, prosperous, and joyful life? Everything. All that you have, had, or will have anything to do with comes back to these questions and how aware and mindful you are of them. The main body of literature that AIS draws from. AIS utilizes the Book of Elesa, a very ancient body of text that predates any known written doctrine. The Book of Elesa is the study of the science of vibrational mechanics, which includes a branch of science called Kilanta, which is from the Mahabharata text. This technology was brought back to this planet by Eisha Dean, Arias Productions, formerly of Azurite Press, via data streaming. Keylonic science underpins and circulates through everything we do. Other resources we utilize blend well with this branch of knowledge. In looking at first creation mechanics, the first key to look at, the Trinity of Light Sound 1, the Christ Code. This is the foundation upon which everything manifest is built on. There are three elements that make up the code. The sound, which equals magnetic, female or contracting holding energy, matter, or in matter. Pre-sound manifests first. The light equals electric, male or expanding energy, the antimatter. The light in turn manifests out from the sound pretty much at the same time as the sound manifests out. The oneness, the omnipolar, the non-manifest, the cave of creation, internal anti-matter structure, i.e. Great Spirit, you, me, we, us. This structure creates a perpetually renewing, consciously aware of the full eternal structure, the oneness from which the sound and light emanate from. Both light and sound manifest from the core of the omnipolar all-oneness. From this we get the Christ Code. From this we get the true origins of the Trinity of life. This perpetually phases on and off at different angular rotations of particle spin in the same holographic space within the Christ Code construct. And actually in the center where the star is, one can, right there, hold an intention, focus on it, send it out your third eye into that construct, into that star, and it helps to firmly implant and create and manifest what you want to manifest. What is God's source, all oneness? The Christ Code, blueprint, based on the Trinity of conscious aware first eternal divine intention, creates vast, complicated solar systems, humans, plants, animals, rocks, water, including life force in other universes and dimensions that we are not aware of at this time. Originally we had a much longer lifespan and we were breatharians. We sustained on air, light, and water doing a form of photosynthesis. From the Christ Code, the all-oneness as God's source first eternal manifested itself into being. The collective whole is individuated and a collective aware consciousness all at the same time, which is also known as fractaling or multidimensionality. Okay. The Christ Code and crystal spiral relationship. This is where the original all-oneness concept was born. From there it evolved on many universal star systems, where, for example, planet Earth had evolved individuated expressions of the all-oneness concept. Yet, being held by the integrity of the divine concept of the internal antimatter, prematter structure of life, the crystal spiral, metaphysical. The crystal spiral is the wave upon which life perpetually renews and recirculates life currents. God is the all-oneness, the God source, the nameless and unknowable by logic's standards, is the isness, the conscious, aware, awake force that makes up everything manifest, what is perceived as solid or physical, and everything non-manifest, the unknown and the unknowable, internal structure, spirit, thought, feelings, or non-physical. The wiseness of life. Atoms, and what makes up atoms, are wise, aware consciousnesses that work in unison with each other to create life as we know it and do not know it. This wise consciousness is the fullness of the oneness of God Source. Each atom holds the full awareness of the ages within it. We are made up of those fully aware conscious atoms. We are wise, aware consciousness, or God Source first eternal beings. And please don't get caught up at names. Names are thought vibrations of the identity, not really what the identity is. Once we label something, we have just made it finite. And the manifestors we be, as humans, we have a special gift through our particular design or genetic coding, which co-creates with the elements, atoms, in our body and around our body. We are creating our reality with every thought we think. We can focus our attention on life situations around us affecting their outcome. It has been called prayer or self-talk, or to co-create. And as we know, this is not a new concept. How are we expressing as eternal life beings? Take, for instance, how most people are in relationships. Relationships tend to revolve around one premise. How can we get what we want from the people we love? It's not necessarily about how we can just enjoy, appreciate, value, and experience being with the person in a state of co-residence or vibrational harmonization. Not that we don't have those moments, but are they the predominant expression? This webinar is about how we can focus less on getting what we need from people outside of ourselves and focusing on who we are as a self-sustaining, co-creating, God Source first eternal, multidimensional being. But think about it. How often do we either not talk or our loved one does not talk to us because we did or they did something the other did not like? Or the famous one, if you loved me, you would do fill in the blank. An even better example is how we withdraw our love to punish our pets, family, and friends for not doing what we thought they should do. This now brings us into second creation mechanics constructs, Fibonacci spiral, and finite structures. We violated our own mechanics of the Trinity of light, sound, one spirit to create the construct of a world we thought we could manipulate in our own individuated light image, thus exploring the concept of individuation away from our collective self. So in essence, here we are, great, powerful manifestors with the capability to be perpetually renewing. Then why are we living such a finite existence? It's because we did this. Without the life-giving essence of the internal structure of external second creation, the sound magnetic polarized, it split against its light electric comrade, causing it to lose two major components. One was the ability to perpetually renew life. The second was the loss of the fullness of the awareness of our identity, of who we are as mutually equal God-source first eternal life beings of the all-oneness, or it. The balance of chaos and order, or cosmos, was disrupted. We came to manifest our outer expression of self as finite constructs as we became our own second creation program. And each moment we choose again. Vampirism. Because we could no longer bring in the eternal internal structure, we had to look elsewhere. We in turn created the Fibonacci spiral, tube torus, and yin-yang are constructs created for this current planetary matrix for vampiring off other life forms around it. By only creating from our light expression, we broke the connection with our eternal one self. But because we are it, we utilized our own light structure to create a technology that we could vampire off other life forms to self-sustain. These reverse-engineered structures are self-contained energy flows that are not connected to the internal eternal structure, so they continually circulate within themselves, pulling in quantum of energy around them to sustain. An example would be the Fibonacci spiral. Flowers of life is another one, good example, and the daisy of death is another one, although this is the human form of it. The catechist structure there. Looking at the Fibonacci spiral, and when we actually look at the difference between the crystal spiral, we will see a little bit more, understand a little bit more why this is a finite energy structure rather than an eternal energy structure. But the key is when you look at images like this to understand the difference between finite and eternal is typically they will be encased in a structure. There's not a connection to the outside. Both of these have this. Because looking at these, there's part of the technology of the lotus construct that shows the energy flows, but it's separated off. You see the energies coming out here, but they circulate back in. Come out, circulate back in. Okay? There's no connection to the outside, to our eternal self. Alright? This is very important to understand these technologies. It's not good or bad, right or wrong. It's just second creation mechanics based on finite structure. Okay? Eventually there is a death that will occur. Okay. And now we have the image of the crystal spiral structure. And the crystal spiral structure, if we look here at this structure right here, actually the whole big structure, we're talking about the Chris Code. One of the things the Chris Code designs is something called a Cathara grid, and it has energy lines and energy centers. And so this allows the natural eternal structure to flow through these energy lines and energy centers, which connect at different points with each different interlocking Cathara grid. So you have a flow of the spiral connecting into a Cathara grid structure. And this structure goes all the way back into the core of Source and probably beyond that as well. But for now, we're just looking at our external structure. In Cathara grids, let's see. And next we will look at seeing the two together. Okay, again, we look at how we have interlocking Cathara grid structures, which are interlocking Cathara lines and centers going out, and obviously much bigger ones, but we can only show in a 3D perspective here, really a 2D on this picture. And we look at the Fibonacci spiral, which kind of was part, you can sort of still see a little bit left of the original Cathara grid structure, but that fell apart. It spirals out. Actually, it kind of pulls in. Okay, it feeds energy in. Self-contained, eats energy, and that causes it to be finite. Still a life structure. It's still a certain creation. We as God's first eternal beings created it. It still has a life of its own, but it's not perpetually renewing is the key. Okay. And the Elasa Freeding teachings as well gets more in detail to creation mechanics, and that we'll have a link for y'all to get to that, because there's many details to this, and could take a good day or two working on it. All right. So we're thinking, hey, wait a minute, we're first eternal beings, and here we are living a finite expression. And yes, we created second creation mechanics, but how did it become the norm, the way we be currently? By violating the mechanics of the Chris code, we eventually bred out most of the internal structure. Now you notice I underlined most. I want to make that clear. It's most, not all. Never could do all of it, because then there'd be nothing, right? We as manifestors of the second creation mechanics became caught up in our game, right? We were losing that memory of that connection, that flow back and forth of renewal. We then also lost the associated memory. We came then to shun the responsibility of who we are. We gave it away to anyone and anything that would take it. Okay? Because we are our own creation, the second creation mechanics became in power in and of itself as we continually gave up our power to it. We call this second creation mechanics God, Jehovah, Yahweh, and other religious deities or ancient aliens. All these names are actual parts of our almost lost memories of our oneness that invoke certain powers for the initiated to manipulate. We as manifestors now worked by the laws of the finite opposed to the law of one. Needing to have things and having the power to get it became the primary law of the land. We forgot that we are it. We are perpetually renewing all the time. The question now is, what are we perpetually creating over and over again? Is it for renewal of life everywhere, when, or not? What self-interest are we following? Our true essence or the artificial world we created? How is the interest we choose serving us? So you might be thinking, how can we change living this finite way of life? Two approaches to being in alignment in spirit, and one is wake up and stay awake to the awareness that you are a God Source First Eternal Life being. What we can do to take our personal power and responsibility back. You can take different approaches and see what works the best for you. The next one, what programs are interfering with living as a God Source First Eternal Life being, and how to realign the life source energy that we are. And these are the first two approaches we want to understand first before, in my opinion, we can move forward. And step one, the first approach is breaking the cycle of expressing as a finite life structure is embody the concept, belief, system, or hologram that we are God Source First Eternal Life humans co-creating together. Wake up and stay awake. Be awake, aware, and able. We need to grab onto the steering wheel of life because we are going down the road at 100 miles an hour. Without fully taking on this understanding of who we are, we will easily fall back into finite thinking. The finite second creation mechanics is going to do everything it can to pull us back into, feed off of our energy to sustain itself. For it can only truly live in our thought programs we create. You have to actually want to change. Okay? Many times we just want to feel better and not hurt anymore. Make life simpler. What are we holding on to? Does it support or hinder us in all life? Take time for yourself. Meditate, take walks, yoga. Find what works for you to become aware of you. Okay? We do not feel empowered or inspired to do anything differently as a general rule. We typically want to fix the problem, right? And then go back to the status quo of what we know, what we're comfortable with. Even if we're depressed most of the time, it's familiar to us. Many times the thought of changing is just like, oh my God. Okay? So finding something like prana yoga, lojas, conscious yoga movement, listening to what your body is telling you. What is that still small voice trying to say? Breathe, right? Listen and awaken. Okay. Oh, and what about that ego, right? In a healthy, fully functioning system, the ego is a powerful support in the manifestation process. The ego, healthy or distorted, in combination with our feeling awareness of body elements and our multidimensional spiritual levels as source, creates everything we see, taste, and feel. Programming, such as programming grids and matrix. The ego is what gives us the ability to focus our identity to what we want to manifest. The ego is the bridge between the spirit and the manifest. The ego works with the mechanics of the brain and the identity of the spirit soul. As source, we program the ego to see from a finite self-centered perspective. For the more we forgot, the more we then thought in those terms of being finite, and the less we wanted to take responsibility, we enhanced that program. Okay? What better way to convince a powerful source being that they are helpless than to program the ego to believe this. And the ego will fight with every fiber of its being to support its programming. The ego is always in opposition with itself and all life around it. Okay, questions to ponder. As a God Source First Eternal Being, is self-interest a good thing or a bad thing? How often are selfless acts really selfless? So just take a few moments to think on that. And when you get a chance, or when an answer comes to you about it, please by all means text the answer. Well, text the answer to us. Okay, or give us an email. For those that are viewing this from a recording, by all means think of different questions that you come up with, or answers that you come up with to our questions, and please email them to us, because we would really like to hear them. And if anybody would like, when you do email it to us, let us know if you'd like us to share it on our blog. We would really love to do that. Okay. And how I see self-interest, okay. Self-interest is neither good or bad, it just is. Take care of your own hologram and the rest is taken care of, right? We create our own world. We are mindful and aware of where we're at, what we're thinking, how we're feeling, what we're doing, because we're continually creating with all that, right? Remember, others are eternal beings too, okay? And they're manifesting and creating as well. And some may be a bit fractured, but they are still who they are, no matter how damaged they become. They just may take longer to realign. Okay, the importance of being you. This is key, okay, to your freedom, to knowing you. You are not okay, and you are not okay. You are you. When you know who you are, then your problems will be solved. And we'll talk more about that later. Keep that one in mind, okay? Religion and psychology only help you to place the issue in a new place, okay? Those are good things to talk about what's going on, to make you feel good about it, make you feel less bad about it, but only you, knowing who you are, can release you. And these questions or thoughts are from a Mr. Anthony DeMello. And Tony was a Jesuit priest, a psychotherapist, and a spiritual guide, writer and public speaker from Bombay, India. He passed away in 1987, so he never had the opportunity to know the KS teachings from A.A. Shadeen, but I believe he understood the true meaning of the teachings. And some more from Mr. DeMello. Are you listening to yourself when you listen to another speak? Kind of think on that one. Whose voice within you is speaking? It's funny, you think that you should be focusing predominantly on the other person, and yes, of course you need to listen to what the other person's saying, but you also, it's very important to know, how are you feeling? Are you judging, criticizing? Are you assuming? As well as, we have many sub-personalities within us. We have the little child, the parent, the adult. We have our anger personality, joy personality. The list goes on to the different personas that we embody. Which of those voices or expressions are listening, right? Being mindful of that. And by being mindful awareness of it, you then become you, the big you, then becomes the I, or the me, and not the unconscious other subpersonality. Okay? Beliefs, norms, and values being programming are programming grids. Okay? A programming grid is a matrix, is a conscious aware energy thought forms that run along a set of energy lines or grids. These programming grids or matrix can be very small to very large complex structures that interlock into other programming grids, tying into larger planetary and universal programming grids. So the life we have come to understand is based on programming grids. Another word is chelons. Okay, it's more of a chelonic science term. We can hold on to those programs or change them. It is totally our choice. This, in turn, is why we all can experience the same hologram called planet Earth or planetary matrix, which ties into the universal time matrix. And here's an example that was the easiest to do on the computer of programming grids. Okay, so you have the individual different programs, and they can look different. No one really looks the same. And you see little programs all tying into a programming grid. Okay, all interlocked and interconnected. What to be awake and aware of. Okay, the VV game program. Okay, we want to be mindful of that one. Remember, we are co-creating a world hologram reality to be amnesic to who we really are as God Source First Eternal Life beings. VV game is a good one for that. Teaching us that the world is outside of us and not within us. Always want to be awake and aware. You want to be mindful. We are awake and aware, conscious God Source First Eternal Life beings that are the elements of everything and what makes up the elements. The now moment is another key thing we want to be awake and aware of. The elements work with our own natural ability as humans, with the ego, to focus our intent, organize our ideas, and co-create the world now. Not yesterday, tomorrow, now. It's always now. First creation mechanics is now. No matter how life may look bad, it is the result of our own manifestations. We can, in the next now moment, change it. VV game, what better way to see yourself as finite, weak, helpless, and separate from yourself and all life everywhere. Step 2, approach 2. What programs are interfering with living as a God Source First Eternal Life being, and how to realign the life source energy that we are. Identify the programs that are inhibiting us from being ourself. Okay? Be mindful of the programs we implanted in the planet that we in turn took and take on. Remember, we're the God Source First Eternal beings. We are it. We are everything. Okay? We're first in creation mechanics. We're second creation mechanics, and probably whatever other creation mechanics that's out there that I'm just not aware of. So, to create the VV game and all that goes with it, we had to implant stuff in the grids. And I call them also planetary programs. Okay? Kind of world thought programs that you can sort of a commonality you can go through, like when crowds get together, they act certain ways. Smiling, everybody smiles. There's a sort of wide range of these programs people live by that's kind of universal throughout the whole world. No longer can we play victim. We are responsible for everything in our hologram program. Be careful not to get caught up in the blame-shame game, right? Because we just love to judge ourselves and judge other people, and that just makes the second creation mechanics just grow huge, because that's what built it up to begin with, was a big factor in building it up to begin with. And remember, these programs are not right or wrong, okay? Again, judgment, let that go. They are just that, programs. Being mindful and taking responsibility for our life is actually an empowering experience. It does not mean damning ourselves for our actions that appear to be wrong. It means cleaning up any messes we make and moving onward and upward in our re-evolution. Mechanics of the Chris Code: be mindful of your thoughts, feelings, and actions. Thought, idea, energy, right, expresses outward, electrical. Thought, idea is pulled back, magnetic, into the internal, eternal, metaphysical oneness. Internal oneness, with you, me, us, experiences the energy, thought, idea with equal value, right? In other words, it doesn't distinguish between, is Johnny good boy or is Mary, bad? And okay, because they're one way or the other, if Johnny's good, more thrust is going to go to Johnny. If Mary's bad, less thrust is going to go to Mary. It's equal value. Then the oneness sends thought, idea back into outer expression with equal charge of quantum multiplied by the thrust it was sent on, is returned into manifest form. So in other words, back to the similar analogy, they receive, source internal structure receives equally, digests it equally, thrusts it back equally, whether it be positive or negative. It's going to create equally either way. So, in other words, what you think is what you get, and then some. Again, be mindful of your thoughts, feelings, and actions, because you are creating every breath you take. And honor all decisions you make, and always remember the mechanics of how things work. Okay? Second creation mechanics twist, which gets us into karma and PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay. Our current body hologram structure is unable to naturally, and hologram is a holographic, a projection of reality, okay? Our current body hologram structure is unable to naturally transmute past experiences, holographic experiences, out of our reality field once we have experienced them. They come back over and over again, changing appearance but still pretty much staying the same. Basically, we are all reliving our past over and over again, mixed with new experiences. Underpinning all this is a belief that we die and are reborn over and over, reincarnation. The reincarnation part is true in a finite system. However, we never and have never died. We are eternal beings having a temporary manifest experience. This can transcend many incarnations, and as well as the simultaneous lifetimes as well, all in different time vectors. Okay, so we may have many different physical forms, but it's all one lifetime, eternal lifetime. Okay. Karma, what you put out, you then in turn, in essence, get back again. If you lived a, what many would say, quote unquote, a good life, then you get, quote unquote, back the next round, or next part of your life, positive, good things. And if you lived a selfish, quote unquote, negative life, then down either that lifetime or another expression of time, you in essence lived a negative life or selfish life again, or be the butt of somebody else being selfish to you, or somehow you live it out. That's part of this technology. It gets smacked back at you over and over again until somehow you're worthy enough to not have to live it again, or it finally just clears. This energy builds on itself and feeds the second creation matrix system, making our personal experiences chaotic at times. So again, when we get caught up in karma or the PTSD, or constantly going over, we lose track of we're not in the now moment anymore. We're now caught in the past, right? We're caught in second creation. We are caught in second creation mechanics. It can build up again around a particular event so much it becomes post-traumatic stress syndrome, PTSD. We are reliving our past over and over again, mixed in with new experiences, making the appearance of being new. We have been in a time loop for a very, very, very long time. This January 2013 broke that cycle, and you may be experiencing new input finally. Who or what keeps second creation mechanics going? And I think y'all are getting a good answer on this, but we'll just reiterate just so we make sure we get it completely. Remember, the power this second creation mechanics has is based primarily on our ignorance of who we truly are as God Source First Eternal Beings. Parts of ourself is vested in keeping the second creation mechanics construct running, and other parts of ourself are knowing there is more and wanting to be the internal structure, but keeps getting thrust back into the program. As God Source First Eternal Beings, we are forever replenishing life and, sadly, this program. Tools we can use to identify the programs keeping us in amnesia, and these are just minimal tools. There's more out there, but this was the ones that stood out for me. Okay. One thing I really liked utilizing was the Emotion Codes chart by Bradley Nelson. And we'll be showing the chart in a moment. But you will look at, you'll look at first column, identifies areas of the body associated with certain stuck emotions with corresponding row numbers correlating to the column A and B stuck emotion list. Kinesiology, muscle testing, or a pendulum is helpful tools to use with this chart to identify emotional barriers. And when you're looking at the kinesiology stuff, there's a lot of literature out there on how to do muscle testing for those that don't know how to at this point. Dr. Nelson's book explains it in great detail. It's a pretty easy thing to learn. And you can do it for yourself on your own with your hands. It's pretty easy. Being mindful of where in the body do we feel stuck, and then being aware of the associated emotions to that area of the body. So the chart's helpful that way. Okay, so let's look at the chart. So again, row 1, for instance, heart or small intestine, and then you're looking at the columns A and B. So for instance, with the heart and small intestine, one typically would have trouble with abandonment issues, betrayal, forlorn, lost, love, unreceived. Column B, effort, unreceived, heartache, insecurity, overjoy, vulnerability. And you can go down the list of the different areas of the body and the different associated emotions. Obviously, that's not all the emotions one can feel, but those are pretty much basic ones for that particular area of the body. Okay. Another method that I've worked with some that I found quite beneficial, probably a little bit more easier for me actually than utilizing the kinesiology, is the falling back in time method. And it can be very helpful in narrowing down the timing of when the emotion became stuck. So to do this one, you focus. You're aware of the tenseness, what's going on with your body, how you're feeling, you have a particular issue you want to resolve. You don't even really know at this point what the stuck emotion is. You just know there's something going on. You're not moving ahead with your life. So you hold the intention of it, and this feeling of falling backwards. You obviously don't fall backwards, but you just your consciousness falls backward down through your body. And you feel this flow downwards until all of a sudden you feel like, I gotta stop. And so then you stop, and then you just sit for a moment and just experience what comes. You may get a date, and an age, where you were at, what were you eating, smelling, feeling. You'll get different things that'll come to you about what was going on. And you'll get a lot of different awarenesses, and all of them help you tell the story. All of them help you get out of being unconscious of it and stuck and caught up in it, and seeing it for what it is. You don't want to talk about the emotion. You don't want to talk about the emotions of it. You want to just see the story, okay? Just see the story of what it is, okay? And then understand it and let it go. And we'll get into more things to do in other workshops in a little bit more detail of when you get certain ones that are just not letting you go. Okay. Stuck emotions and PTSD. We became so attached and so invested in a particular experience that a portion of our consciousness stays phase-locked into the original event. Okay? We live the experience over and over again in many incarnate experiences as it stays deeply stuck in our energetic template. And I'm saying incarnate, but really simultaneous is actually probably more accurate. Any moment in this lifetime that you either hold on to something or release it, any shift affects past lifetimes and future lifetimes. Okay? So when you're stuck in whatever time vector, all the other time vectors become to a certain extent stuck too. Okay? Until whichever lifetime it is, clears it, and then it should clear it for pretty much all the other lifetimes at that point. Yes, we find an event so traumatic that awareness alone is not enough to heal it. Okay. We are fully embracing, at that point, when that occurs, we are fully embracing the second creation mechanics illusion. Okay. We will stay phase locked until we shift our consciousness back into the present moment, or the now moment of eternal expression. So again, stop being unconscious about it, being aware of it, being mindful, being present. When you do, for instance, the falling back in time, being aware of what happened, seeing all the players involved, and then seeing the separation of that's then and this is now. Okay? And coming back to now. What's going on now? Am I still there? No, I'm here. Always bringing yourself back to now. Because remember, second creation mechanics lives in the creations of the past and the prospect of the future, not in the eternal now. When people talk about this reality as an illusion, they are speaking second creation mechanics. Okay? They, of course, don't know that, but they are. Trapped emotions are interconnected into programming grids or memes and schemes. Memes and schemes is another word that kind of works with programming grids. A little more psychology type term. As you see the trapped emotion, the programming grid tends to clear along with it many times. When used with biospiritual self-help healing methods, can be a powerful tool for rebalancing or realigning stuck emotions. And I would say, defining schemes and memes. Schemes are psychological programs, okay? And memes is how these programs go viral. Kind of like the 100th monkey kind of thing. How thought programs are in one place and then all of a sudden they're spreading out to the whole, or like one maybe family, and they kind of spread out in the street and then the community, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger of a new way of looking at something, a new program. The following are excerpts out of Dr. Bradley Nelson's Emotion Codes book of the power of tracking stuck emotions to rebalance back to your original Christic design. Trapped emotions can cause you to make the wrong assumptions, overreact to innocent remarks, misinterpret behavior, and short-circuit your relationships. Even worse, trapped emotions can create depression, anxiety, and other unwanted feelings that you can't seem to shake. They can interfere with proper function of your body, organs, and tissues, wreak havoc with your physical health, causing pain, fatigue, and illness. Yet, no matter how great your suffering may be, the invisible energy of trapped emotions will remain undiagnosed by conventional medicine, even though they may be a major causative factor in your physical and emotional difficulties. And this was section 1, page 11, Emotion Codes book. Again, understanding many times those feelings and stuff that you just want to just push to the side, many times, depending upon how intense they are, if you do, they become stuck, you can get a lot of physical and emotional things occurring for you. This is a list out of the same book. List of ailments caused by stuck emotions. Okay? Acid reflux, diabetes, learning disabilities, ADHD, dyslexia. Things you'd never think would, but actually do. I could understand low back pain. Interestingly, allergies. Eye pain, and actually throughout my education, so to speak, my life experiences of working in the healing field and working with myself, many times I have found emotional stuff, emotional things you're holding on to, really do cause a sensitivity to the environment, which is in turn allergies. Okay? So the more you can really let go of that emotional stuff you're holding on to, the physically healthier you're going to be. And you can see the list here. Neck pain, cancer, hip pain. Cancer, obviously, we've always heard that one's a pretty simple one to know. Interesting, hypoglycemia, panic attacks, chest pain, impotency, Parkinson's disease, chronic fatigue, I could see that one, infertility, phobias, Crohn's disease, insomnia, shoulder pain, joint pain, tennis elbow, depression, obviously, knee pain, and vertigo. And these are some of the many situations that can cause trapped emotions. Financial hardship, home or work stress, miscarriage or abortion, physical trauma, physical or emotional combat, physical, mental, verbal, or sexual abuse, negative self-talk, negative beliefs about yourself and others, long-term stress, rejection, physical illness, feelings of inferiority, internalization of feelings, neglect or abandonment. All these things, all these different life situations, very easily, if you don't take the time to be aware of how you're feeling and what's going on and how you're seeing the situation, can very easily have emotions that just stay there and just get stuck. Okay? The mind is built upon symbol codes of matter that relate to different parts of the body. Okay? So financial hardship probably be in the lower extremities, probably in the tailbone, the legs. Okay? Finances, the foundation, financial security, physical, needs. And in summary, we are all that ever was, is, and will be. We are so huge and vast that we fractaled into multifaceted singing lights to become experiences of form. We became creative in the forms we took on and became caught up in believing these forms were real. So real we became in the image of the finite and became blind to who we are. We can rediscover again who we are, but it takes awareness and mindfulness and courage to be honest and responsible with our creations. It takes understanding the mechanics of why we do what we do and reprogramming the programs. There is a lot of excellent information out there to help us along in our reawakening process, and there is a lot out there that on the surface looks good, but the deeper you go, you find the information really keeps you trapped. Okay? Because remember, these programs, many of them, were based on second creation mechanics. You may find some very ancient texts that predate a lot of the second creation mechanics and was based on first creation mechanics, which is why I like the Chelonic science. And you many times, even the newer stuff, still the person who thought it up was still connected enough with their first creation mechanics consciousness that they were able to bring in a lot of the first creation info. But there's also a mixture. We get about usually 80% truth, 20% twist. So it's always being mindful of where those twists are. The more we understand the mechanics behind the information and take what works and leave the rest, the quicker we will re-evolve. And thank you for joining me tonight, or today, for those that are playing the recording. Now that you have begun the awareness process and understand some of the technicals, we can move on to a deeper level of embodiment of the eternal that we be. Okay, the next webinar will cover two other approaches. Okay, one is now live as a God Source First Eternal Life being. The fourth is harmonizing the gateway to living fully as a God Source First Eternal Life being in three-dimensional world or density 1. And approach 3 will encompass the attitudes and responsibilities of mastery and more detail on the VV game and certain nuances involved in dealing with the VV game. And remember, because I'm not here to teach you, fix you, but what I am here to do is to help you know who you are, what you're about. Well, to wake up to who you are, help support you to wake up to who you are. And so to understand some of the nuances of why we do what we do is very helpful in understanding that. So this particular approach will get more into that understanding in a variety of different ways. Approach 4 will be putting together everything that you've learned into a powerful biospiritual package in realigning yourself back to living a joyful, healthy life. But to be able to do approach 4, we needed to do today or tonight. Okay, we really needed to understand the mechanics of things to really get to identify who you are and understand that, and have you really sit with that. And I want you to really take time between now and the next workshop to really sit with that and meditate and take that time, yoga or meditation or conscious yoga movement or walking or whatever it is for you to be able to get to listen to you. And again, making life simple. All right, I can't say how important that is, because the more you keep having things in your life to make you busy, that's not really anything for you to actually take action on and do and grow with, but just to be busy, is second creation mechanics. It's stuff that keeps you out of the now moment, and it just gets you into doing stuff, okay? The more you can clear that kind of stuff out, and so it's kind of a mixture of those two steps, or the first step of waking up and being mindful, and then doing the walking and the yoga, the two together, and then simplifying all of that work together. They work with each other. It's not one or the other. They're not like do first, do second, do third. Do them all together, and then you will get answers, and you will clear, and you will work. And then you'll wake up more to where when we go for this next workshop, you'll be more prepared to actually really do these next two approaches. Okay. And again, please either call or email with anything that answers you get from tonight or questions that you get. You said this, but I didn't really get it. Can you tell me more? We'll be happy to work with you, get you more info, get you more prepared. And we can, again, when you call, we can talk more about what's available. I also wanted to let you know that, kind of in line with that, is after we get approach 3 and 4 down pat, the next webinar, which will be coming soon, will be a webinar on biospiritual energy realignment practice with the personal coaching practice session. to really get more in depth with some of the more complex programs that kind of we struggle with to clear, to realign our energies. Okay, now, excuse me for a sec. Okay, sorry about that. Questions for discussion. Okay. One question is, and this is just kind of go again, give people, I know that with the people that do the recording, listening to the recording, can't actually ask them right now, but these are questions to ponder, to think about, and once again to email to us or call us and talk to us about, to make sure you really get, okay, and for us to get inspired by your answers. Okay, who are we truly? What is the key, what is the Christ code? What is second creation mechanics? Why are we not expressing as who we really are? What are some things we can do to heal the issues keeping us from being who we truly are? How has this webinar empowered you? Pick one of these you might have a question on or have something to add, and that'd be really coolio. Okay, and again, thank you to everyone, and if anyone needs further assistance, you can email me at katie@alignmentandspirit.com or call me at 239-785-9599. Of course, both of those are on the website as well. And we should, okay. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you all in the next workshop, or excuse me, webinar. And you all have a wonderful day or evening. Thanks. Oh, make sure. Just wanted to show the resources, okay, which you also should have a hard copy of the resources as well, of where we got the bulk of the information from. Okay. Again, the Aurora Earth Facebook page, Discovery Events, Conscious Yoga Movement. At this point, they don't actually have a taping of it, a DVD of it, but I'm hoping by January or February of next year they will. But they do have certain dates that they do it to coincide with Iesha Dean's Kelonic Science workshops. So you may want to find that you might want to go to one of her workshops and do the Conscious Yoga Movement and learn about that. I also added resource in regards to Kundalini Yoga, and Gurmukh is an excellent resource person that does Kundalini Yoga, and she's more traditional Kundalini. And Ravi Singh and Anna Brett are also two excellent people that do Kundalini Yoga that I've gotten a lot out of and have memory of doing it from the past to get tinglies at it. It's very powerful yoga as well. If that, you find out if that, which works for you, but that's been very helpful for me. Also, production and projection. This webinar on being in alignment was compiled, produced, and edited by Katie and George. Much of this information included is from current available resources of biospiritual knowledge. Credit is given where quotations or graphics are used from any other authors or productions. Large parts of the material are from vertical research and inner understanding of the science of vibrational mechanics, which have always been on Earth, but mostly hidden within our own internal halls of records. Those halls are now open and accessible to you. This is an introduction of what promises to be a whole different way of living and co-creating for the next 900 years on Earth, Ariya. Thank you. Good night. Oh, also definitions.